This is a patient with a disease called myasthenia gravis. He was a good man but sadly useless. And it looks like he died a virgin, too. And contrary to expectation, it wasn't the pretty nurse next to him, it was that aunt. Life really is a humiliating piece of shit. Then when the boy closes his eyes and opens them again, he sees himself. He finds himself in a bamboo basket as a baby. He retains memories of the modern world, but here he is surrounded by killers in black everywhere. And the man who held him protected him. He was very strong. He handled everyone who wanted to attack him and wanted to take the baby away. He was the late mother's servant. He was a martial arts master of the highest order, one of the 4 great masters that were in this world. He was her chief protector, and he came to the head of the prosecutor's office. And he said that they did not appreciate this magician. Before strong magic, anything would be like Peru, which some magician writes, that is, utterly useless. He asked him where his sister was. He replied that he hadn't made it. He said he wanted an explanation for what had happened. He didn't say anything. And he asked if her kid was alive. The guy said he was alive. He wanted to take him somewhere safe. He had recently returned to the capital, and this was the right place. And told him he wouldn't believe a word he said. He said he couldn't give him anything. You're blind, and even though your kung fu is the best in the world, all you can do is kill. The guy went off to Danju, and so the weeks, the months, the years passed. And the boy grew up. He was telling his friends a story. The story goes that a traveler reached the wall and saw a ladder there. He climbed it slowly, step by step, found a door and went through it. And what happened next? He said and smiled. And just like that, the hero prevented an enemy invasion. The end. The boy finished telling the story. But his friends said they didn't like the story, and he said that you don't understand anything. Suddenly a boy ran up to them. And he shouted at the boy to hurry home. He said his farm manager was beating up his servants again. He beat all the girls mercilessly. He shouted at them to tell them where their mistress had gone. But they said they didn't know. They said the young master had forbidden them to speak of it. He threatened them that if they told, he would beat them to death. He was the master and she had to obey him. The steward is the steward and he has every right to punish us. It was literally a vicious circle. The girl replied that he could beat him to death. In response he said, if you say so I won't hold back any longer and I'll beat you up. Just as he was about to hit her, Fan Xian came. And he said it was his maids and why you beat them up. He said it was because of the young mistress. He can't teach that boy a lesson, but the maids can. And the boy's sister wanted to explain it to him. But he said he couldn't let her defend him. The boy slowly walked over to the table and climbed up on the nag. Next the boy told the steward to come up to him. When he did, he told him to keep his head straight. The manager had no time to say a word before he hit him with all his might that he flew away and his teeth fell out. He was surprised, such atrocities at such a young age, and he began to say he would tell his grandmother everything. When they were having supper he came to them and said that the young gentleman had hit him in the pavilion today. You see, Grandma, he said himself that I did the right thing. My sister said that this manager had beaten up my brother's maids for no reason. Grandmother replied that they should change all the maids in his pavilion. But the boy replied that he liked the silence and did not need so many people. Then she said they should all be recalled. Let's see if you dare bully my people again, thought the boy. Also his grandmother said that his sister would be taken back to the capital. And that had been decided a long time ago. The girl was upset. When the boy went back to his house he saw the maid there. She had served there since she was a child and she was not skilled in martial arts. The boy asked why she had not returned home. She replied that her parents didn't want her anymore. And she didn't have a home anymore. I had no place to go. And I said that you and I are the same, I also have no father and mother. The girl was surprised and said that the young master has a father and lives in the capital. But he said he didn't. He also said that in that case stay here, but you must be mentally prepared for the old man to make fun of you again. The boy was already lying in bed thinking about what was interesting about this capital, what kind of food is usually eaten there. There must be an undersupplied local, but said he had to throw all these thoughts away and think about the future. He lay there lying awake and couldn't sleep. So he decided to get up from looking at his treasure. It was an untitled yellow book. It was left for him by a blind guy named Wuju when he was very young. When he opened it, he knew right away what it was. It's a kind of cultivation method. He. Hard work makes up for a lack of talent. Even if this method is no good, nothing bad will happen if he practices it. There was a big storm outside. Not Zab on the boy's backside appears some unknown man. He came closer to the boy and asked, "Are you Fanzian?" As soon as the guy heard this, he quickly went to hug him and not tell him it was his father, and he was finally back. The man was in a state of confusion. He pushed him away and said he wasn't his father. When he pulled away, he ripped his clothes off with him. He said, "Sorry, Dad. Have a soothing tea." But he told him again that he wasn't his father. He drank the tea the guy gave him. The man asked who made the tea. The boy said, "It was my mother." "Nonsense, your mother died the day you were born." But the boy replied that she was always there. "By the way, the fabric of my clothes is very strong, I even found it very difficult to scratch with a knife. How did a 4-year-old child manage to tear it?" The boy shouted that his mother had come. And the man turned away. At that time she took it and with all her might stabbed him in the butt twice. The boy put all his strength into his fingers, thinking he could hold on to it. Who knew he could only get a grip on the rags? He didn't understand who it was. He used 100% of his energy to deliver 2 blows, but he was still breathing. "I'm afraid he's trying to kill me when he wakes up." And then he wanted to kill him, pulled out a knife, but he suddenly changed his mind. And he quickly ran to his uncle's shop. He says, "The shop is closed, if you want to buy something, come back tomorrow." The boy says that they are trying to kill him and to open the door. The uncle wanted to call the police. The boy says he doesn't want the police, so he kills him. "Let him want to kill me, I hurt him." "What a silly thing to say," the uncle replied. The boy started screaming that he urgently needed help and this was no time to pretend indifference. "So Adam was eating at this shop and refusing me, but now it's really important." He said that his uncle has to take care of him. He opened the doors and said the boy surprised him and they ran in there. When they got there he said he was alive. The boy was very surprised as he hit him twice and he was still alive. As soon as he tried to wake up, the boy hit him again. But uncle said that he was in fact the commander of the 3rd Revision Ward, he was his own. The boy was surprised and said, "Why didn't you tell me this before I smashed the table on him?" "You didn't ask," he replied. His name was Fei Jie and he was one of the top 3 masters of poisons in the world. He is good at both making and using them, as well as antidotes to them. Such a tough man, he wouldn't hold a grudge against me for hitting him, would he? The boy was very cruel and ruthless at his age. He told his uncle to silence him and kill him. "Even though he is under your father's authority, it was not clear why he came here." The man woke up and asked what happened to him. The boy began to say that he took a sip of tea and then just passed out. And the blood came out of his head because he hit the table when he fell. "Was it you already trying to be you?" he said. And the boy said it wasn't him and it was his uncle. "So that's it. I must have done something wrong for our great master to do something like that." But uncle said he did it. And he didn't do it once, he did it 3 times. The man said he didn't think you'd be in this valley, too. "I can't believe that after all these years in the capital you haven't changed at all, not inwardly or outwardly. What are you doing here?" Uncle asked. He said that La paid him a lot of money to become Master Fanzian. I also said no one had told them about it. The young master is maturing, and the earlier he starts his training, the better his chances in the future. "No matter what your opinion of me, if you wish, I will return to the capital," he said. "I'm sure the Lord will support you in that." And he replied that he didn't think it was that simple. There must be another reason why you came here. He lowered his eyes and said that the Lord was afraid that the box left by the mistress would be found by someone else. So he would like some advice. He was told that there was no need, she had destroyed it an eye before she died. Then he said it was fine. The man also began to say that he had always thought the young master was something strange. He was only 4 years old when he asked to be trained in Qigong. Wasn't he scared? It's really strange, that's why I didn't teach him. It's good that he has an uncle now. The boy got a kind of ominous feeling. The next day Feize came to his grandmother and said that Master Fan had introduced him as a mentor to the boy. A bandit attacked him on the way and told him not to worry about him. And he didn't turn the boy in. Said that even though the villain was looking for Dick, he would find a way to teach him a lesson. The maids looked on and marveled at the young master's new master. They said the new old man looked like an outlaw. They knew already that he would be their master's mentor. The boy told the teacher that he could not blame him for what happened because he had a knife in his hand and he was still young, and had not acted thoughtfully. The boy asked the teacher what he was going to teach him. I will teach you how to kill people with poison. And how not to be poisoned by others. The boy got very excited, and told us what we were waiting for. Let's start now. He wanted to catch 2 rats as test subjects. The teacher looked at him and couldn't believe he was really only 4 years old. The teacher and the master went on their way. They went to the graves. The teacher told the boy to choose a grave and then dig it up. He quickly chose a grave. He wanted help digging it, but the master told him to dig it himself. So he started digging. He quickly dug the hole and saw the coffin. He told the master that everything was ready now, he had to open the coffin. The master asked him if he understood why he had interrupted him here. The boy said of course, to perform autopsies to study the structure of the human body. This is an excellent first step. The teacher was very surprised how this child knew everything. And asked him if you're not the least bit scared. But the boy didn't even hear that and quickly started breaking the coffin. Next he gave him a knife and told him to open up the body and find out the cause of death. But the guy wasn't in much of a hurry to open it up. The teacher already thought he was finally scared. But he said he was scared, it's full of germs, you need some kind of protection, right? What kind of protection? The teacher asked. At least it's filthy. You have gloves. He was talking about how their glove, which is almost invisible on the hand. He was saying that concealment is a delicate job, how can you wear gloves? He had never heard of anything like that, just a good hand job, that's all. He seemed to have no other option and started to dissect the body. Since you're so smart, you can probably guess why I want to teach you how to use poisons, right? Asked the teacher. Someone is bound to want to kill me in the future. So I need to learn how to use poisons so that no one will be able to poison me. The boy said to the teacher to tell him more about his father. Wu Zhu is your mother's servant, a master of 4 great masters. Your mother was peerless. Then how did she die? The boy asked. He said he couldn't tell him that and asked how he got so many questions. The boy couldn't hold back any longer. And spat it all out of his mouth. The teacher said this was just the beginning. It would only get worse and started laughing. The next day, they sat at the table. The teacher gave him something to eat, telling him to hurry up and eat as he was tired after the previous night. Turns out this nasty old man has a good side too, thought the boy. Teacher, I notice that you are very polite, uncle. Are you afraid of him? Why would I be afraid? It's just respect, said the teacher. Isn't he tough? All warriors are divided into 9 ranks, and only 4 are ranked higher than 9. A teacher from Nanqing has never lost a duel in his life. A Qing dynasty master claims to be a nearer to the gods. A master from the city of Dongyi says he can defend the city with just a ball. There is another. He guards His Majesty's palace in Nanjing and has already saved him twice from assassination attempts. If one man had not done the deed, there would be 5 great masters in the world. Wow, I didn't think uncle was only cool. He once gave me a book. I must be very strong. Yes, the body really is strong, said the teacher. You are very strong, even though you have not trained for a long time. The amount of strength you have is far beyond your age and body. What is that, good or bad? You have to train your energy properly. Let me help you do this by sitting up straight. Let go of the energy and feel it flowing inside you. You are only 5. No matter how strong your true energy is, you won't surprise me. The boy sat down and started to feel his energy as much as possible. He began to feel to the point where his eyes lit up and he launched a power wave. When he opened his eyes, he saw that the teacher flew away from him. The boy ran up to him and asked what happened. Because of me you got hurt. You little asshole. How can you be so strong at 5 years old? I also feel like I'm pretty capable. Almost said it wasn't a compliment or a praise. If you keep practicing like that, I'm afraid your energy will just rip you apart. You're like a Sven pumpkin and your energy is wine. The more you practice, the more wine pours into the pumpkin. Sooner or later it just bursts. What am I supposed to do then? It's really bad, really bad. An uncle came into their room. The boy ran up to him and started saying that the energy he gave him was too much. He replied that he didn't give it to you. It was left to you by your mother. That energy has a name, thank you, boy. There's bossy and annoying. What a stupid name, the boy said. Ha ha ha, I'm really overreacting. This boy, given his strength, can probably handle Fan Xian's training in controlling the inner energy. Uncle said he wouldn't be able to teach him. They were surprised and didn't know what to do then. Speaking of which, how could his body contain so much internal energy? Is he even human? Terrible, better not to mess with him, said the teacher. The boy thought he was about to explode. But his uncle told him that he would not explode. Apparently, the master has a solution. Uncle, what solution do you have? Speak quickly. It's simple, don't practice. The next day they went to the forest and there were some mushrooms and the teacher tells him to eat them. The boy sat down. After that, the next hour the teacher could sleep in peace. Since the boy was under a safe watch. The teacher knew all about flowers and poisons. If it wasn't for the poison master around, he would have left this world a long time ago. The teacher says you've learned almost everything you can about poisons this year. You call that learning? Maybe this is your revenge, said the boy. But you've lived, so don't focus on the process. If I wanted to survive, I don't know how many times I'd have kicked the bucket, said the guy. After all this, I can leave with peace of mind, said the teacher. Leave? Are you going back to the capital? Yes, I received a letter. I am going back in a month. Another month? Master said he has to avenge what happened a year ago before he leaves. Haven't you bullied me enough this year? They went outside and the teacher put different jars on the table. Think about what kind of poison it is, when it got into you and how. Only then can I be sure that I can leave you. Guys, taste the first poison. A bitter taste, it must have been mixed with the medicine, so I didn't notice. The teacher told him to try and use what he had learned and to choose the right bottle. The boy tried everything and chose only one bottle. The teacher told him to drink it. The teacher opened the umbrella. Suddenly the boy started splashing blood. I told you to choose, but I didn't tell you there was an antidote inside. The boy didn't understand who could be a teacher like him. If so, why don't you send me off, said the teacher. If you can do it, I recognize your skills. Agreed? Saw agreed. The next day, the boy brought the teacher chicken and wine. You've been so nice lately. Don't you want to say goodbye to me, asked the teacher. Of course, replied the boy, enjoy your dinner, I won't interrupt. The teacher stopped the boy and told him to take the wine and leave the food. He told him to be hard on him. He could smell poisons in the wine. Next thing you know, the teacher was lying down. He began to bleed. The boy began to say that he had lost. The teacher didn't understand what he was using. Time. All these days, I have been feeding you the best meat and fish, which I cooked with special tonic herbs. And the soup that I cooked using those same herbs. And you've been devouring it all these days, thus making your blood thicker. As a result, eating a lot of tonic herbs equivalent to consuming poison. You're pretty smart, said the teacher. The boy was very happy that he could beat the teacher. Next, the boy and the teacher were walking through the forest with the horse. The teacher should have been leaving by now. Just stick to your way, places people will always change, said the teacher. In all these years, the only person I could trust was my uncle. And now there is one more person. Don't forget that there's always one naughty boy here to welcome you. Even if I want to forget, I won't forget, said the teacher. The teacher took out the inspection commissioner's badge and said what he was asked to pass on. Your mother once gave it to us for safekeeping, so it is rightfully yours. The boy said he had a gift too. These are gloves made of sheep's guts. Remember to take them with you when you dissect corpses and experiment with poisons. The teacher said he liked it. If I'd met you sooner, I'd have taken a different path. Married someone and raised you to be a farmy asshole. The teacher left, followed by the boy saying he could count on him in the future. Sounds nice and scary at the same time. The boy was left alone with his uncle. Uncle, don't you drink? I bought this wine especially for you. If you don't want to drink it, I'll drink it myself. Children shouldn't drink alcohol, Uncle said. La la la. Actually, I wanted to ask you a lot of things. For some reason, 40 years, your appearance hasn't changed a bit. What kind of person my mother was? If you don't drink, where do you get your wine bowls from? My teacher said you're no match even among the 4 greats in martial arts, is that true? Uncle? The boy's eyes began to close. And he woke up in a bamboo field. He was very sick and didn't know what was wrong with him. After you got drunk last night, your energy went wild. Uncle, you gave me this book, you must be able to control that energy. Teach me. I said I can't. Now what do we do? Uncle said he had another way to help him. He'll beat him. And then? And why are you and the teacher making fun of me? You need to use up your inner energy as soon as possible. Otherwise you'll be torn, just like you were told before. Direct the energy to your feet, that way you'll see your speed. The uncle ran away and the boy ran after him. The boy ran very fast, he had never run so fast before. It turns out that energies can be used like that. It turns out that if he runs for a long time, he can avoid the explosion. Suddenly his uncle runs up to him and hits him so hard that he flees into the lake. Running alone is not enough, you have to have sharp eyesight and quick reactions. Then others can't hurt you. So you're accusing me of not being good enough? Yes. The boy began to run very fast from his uncle. It turns out, thanks to the concentration of power in his legs, he can run very fast. If he could run out of the forest, who could avoid his uncle's attacks? He ran out, so far away. Uncle won't be able to catch up with him, he thought. But his uncle comes and hits him on the ground. The boy was surprised, the teacher had just left, but a worse monster immediately took his place. If you can hit me or at least keep your clothes on, consider yourself tested, my uncle said. The boy had plenty of energy and was not going to hurt him, only touches his clothes. But as soon as he tried, he immediately flew back into the stone. And all the following blows were unsuccessful. Here the boy is now 16 years old. He kept trying to hit his uncle, but all the blows were unsuccessful. Uncle, could you take it easy? Score. You're strong enough, training's over. But I still haven't beaten you. I don't need any credit, I want to keep going. Suit yourself. Next, the lad's maid gave him a massage. She hit the master with a teddy bear, didn't she? And the master is still so young. I could feel it all when I was a kid. But years later, when I noticed changes in my body, I finally understood. Beat me, train my vision and reaction, train my fighting instinct. Squatting, laying foundations, cutting carrots, toning my mind. He's beating me for my own good. The young gentleman seems to have had the last of his brains beaten off. He says it's all nothing. The real danger is a guard in red robes. The real danger? Suddenly the boy put his arms around the girl and said, let's forget about it. Is it possible to go such a good day with this talk? Young master, what is this you? The next day, when the lad was training, he heard horses. It sounded like a whole troop of men, there were clearly quite a few of them. When he opened the door he saw very many guards in red clothing. The boy was frightened, but suddenly they all bowed down to him and told him that by order of Master Fan Xian he must return to the capital. Hearing this, the boy quickly ran to his grandmother's house. Grandmother, at the gate some people who had come to pick me up in the capital. I had already refused. The capital is not a good place. That's where your mother died. She would have outlived her daughter if she had stayed in our village. They all kneel and gloriously insist that I must go. Well, let them stand like that until they die. Grandma, you're so cool. I get it. Then the boy was with his uncle and told him that he had a serious question on his mind lately. To go to the capital or not, he said. How do you know what I mean? Why do they want to take me to the capital? Uncle, you said my mother died there, are the men who killed her still there? On the one hand, I want it, but at the same time it's a bit dangerous. Uncle, you said that if I faced danger. Before he could finish his sentence, Uncle said he was going with the boy. Uncle, there's something else I've wanted to ask you for a long time. When I wake up in my 80s, will your face stay the same? He was silent. The master went to lunch. He didn't understand why Granny hadn't come. He was told that she was engrossed in reading, so she asked to beat the loner. Well, the lad replied. He put some food on a plate and said he would finish it in his room. One plate? What to do with the rest? The usual, just eat. Hell, even if this illegitimate child doesn't follow the rules, it still looks like a host. Whispered the steward. According to custom, servants can only eat what the master leaves behind. But the young master really only takes a bite out of each meal. That's right. I don't understand why the mistress likes him so much. Let's share the food with the others. His maid ran after him and asked what had happened. He said he had been poisoned. Someone had sent this dish. I always taste the dishes before I let Grandma and the onions touch the game. To avoid something like that. And I got some, and he was fine. This poison was called catnip. It is often used by spies from the Watchers' Council. Maukuzi, and it was a fruit from the southern islands whose sap does not show up in any way when mixed with other foods. It is extremely difficult to detect. That is why spies use it to commit murders that need to be concealed. Once the poison enters the stomach, it takes effect, causing people to convulse and die. In addition, the cause of death in such cases is almost impossible to determine. Some it has a faint aftertaste. The only drawback is its slightly bitter tang. The killer must have known this, so he mixed it with bamboo shoots. He's clearly well versed in poisons. On a country that's not even lethal, the only thing that might be diarrhea. Do you happen to know where we got these sprouts? He asked the maid. Lao Ha's nephew brought them this morning. Doesn't Lao Ha usually do this himself? Why is his nephew under me today? They say he is sick, so his nephew is doing the delivery today. Is something wrong? Nephew? Lao Ha is lonely, why does he have a nephew? Is this nephew supposed to be the killer? Poisoned, but not murdered. So what's he up to? The guy quickly started to go somewhere. The skier didn't know where he started to go. But he said it was okay, he wouldn't be gone for long. And he told her to stay home as it might be dangerous there. He wants to see him. Wants to know why he did it. When he got to him he saw that he was tied up. Apparently, the killer wanted to get rid of him. First he decided to save him and then he asked him everything. He said that he had come to save him and asked who had done this to you. Suddenly he told the master to turn around. A guy with a knife rushed out. The guy noticed this and took out his knife and repulsed his attack. Poisoning is your handiwork, he asked. He took off his mask and there he saw that it was the fourth member of the Nanjing Council. He seems to be getting orders to kill me. When he wanted to run up at him, he shouted for him to stop, and told my grandfather to move away, and said he could now teach him a lesson. The killer started throwing a lot of blades at him, and the boy didn't understand how he got so many skates, and though there were so many, from all of them he was able to bow. He ran up to him and they began to fight. The killer hit the boy with his knife, and it looks like he put poison on his dagger. After he hit the boy, he said he lost. I didn't expect you to have that kind of power at such a young age. Pity you missed the blow. The poison in the food makes people unable to move, but the poison on the dagger kills. Killers are all cruel, that's the way it is. The boy only laughed. Haven't you heard that a villain dies from talking too much? Suddenly the boy began to fall to the ground and realized that the boy's sword was also dispatched. What he was saying was that he'd been drugged with poison since he was a kid. And with a simple poison like his you can't take it. He put the sword to him and asked what its purpose was. If you are determined to poison me, why is the dose non-lethal? Asked the boy. I only want to kill you. I don't want to involve the others. Is this kind of mercy typical for a killer? Who sent you? This is an inspection order, to kill a traitor. Me? Traitor? You don't understand who they are. No one can save the man the inspectorate is hunting. You may still be breathing, but in our eyes you are long dead. If I die, someone else will replace me. The guy showed him the badge of the 3rd Inspectorate, and told him it was his teacher. He couldn't believe that Mr. Fajia was his teacher. I'm 16 years old, I lost my mother when I was a kid. Since I'm a bastard child, I've never seen my father and have lived here all my life. With my experience in life, do you think I'd have time to earn the status of a traitor? What you said makes sense. I get it. Someone may have transmitted a false order to eliminate you. You're not gonna kill me? It's a misunderstanding. Why would I kill you? If someone wants to take you out and my attempt to kill you fails, other mercenaries will show up to silence me. This has nothing to do with me. By the way, I have one more question for you. Our rules are very strict. How did you manage to get behind Lao Ha's nephew? Only showing up on our doorstep once. Who helped you with the paperwork? It was the manager, said Mercenaire. When he came home with his grandmother, they tied him up. He said they might kill him and he didn't want others to get hurt, so he did it for the sake of our family. For the family? I am listening to you, grandmother said. I was sent by the second mistress to look after Fanxian. If this guy goes to the capital, he's bound to start a lawsuit over the family property. To avoid that, it's easier for him to request to appear there for the rest of his days. It's logical. For the sake of the family's stability, soft-heartedness must be discarded, said Granny. What? Do you agree with him, Granny? Are you on his side? You have to remember that as you get older you have to learn to be ruthless. Come in, she said. Grandmother, what are you up to? Didn't understand the boy. Madam, you are so wise, said the steward. Break his legs and put him in a boat so that he cannot set foot on land until his last breath, said the grandmother mercilessly. He didn't understand why he, didn't you say you couldn't stand the boy? Was it all a lie? What were you thinking about? Grandma asked. She used to send me presents during the holidays. I was so pleased. Grandma said we didn't know if his words were true. Said she'd write to his father and ask him to check. The guy said he shouldn't write and that he'd find out on his own. Will you go to the capital? The grandmother asked in surprise. Didn't we agree that you would stay in the valley? Grandmother, you can see that I've grown up and I haven't seen anything yet. Once there was the first killer, there'll be a second, there'll be a third. And instead of hiding, I could have gone there myself. Have you made up your mind to go to the capital? Granny asked. Yes, I will go back when everything is fine. Anyway, there are problems to be solved. And when will you go? Grandmother asked. Tomorrow. Grandma said she won't go out to see him off. I'm getting old, and I don't like saying goodbye. The master and his murderer were sitting by the lake. Suddenly the killer says he wants to ask him for a favor. He says he wants him to kill him. Kill you? Oh, you mean help you hide your identity? Because you betrayed your employer? I didn't betray anyone, but I've got a ride that needs to be dealt with. What's in it for me? Asked the boy. Don't you want to know? What tricks did the second mistress use to mislead the inspection institute? The boy didn't understand anything and told him to speak normally. Oh, I mean, this way your investigation will go faster. I mean, I get it. Then I look forward to our fruitful cooperation. Next, the boy went to his uncle in the grocery shop. He came up and said he was going to the capital. The uncle said, all right. Uncle, you've been looking after me all these years, don't you have things you'd like to do, people you care about, or plans for the rest of your life? What do you mean? Don't you need me anymore? Uncle asked. What? I always need you. And I don't have anyone more important than you. Uncle, going to the capital tomorrow. I will go to whoever wishes me dead and try to find out what happened to my mother. It's a great option, because I'll be doing what I've always wanted to do. Last time you told me you would come with me to the capital and protect me, but I hope you'll do what's right for you and start living for yourself at last. I'm off, said the lad and left. The uncle was puzzled. Take up what's good for you, live for yourself? The guy starts to pack up his things. And his uncle comes up to him and tells him that he has found something he wants to do. He brought a big, black box. He says his mistress brought it and he wants to open it. You told me the same thing your mother once told me. She always wanted me to find something I like to do. What? Mom left this behind. And how to open it, the kid didn't understand. He said he needed a key, but he didn't have one. Uncle, why don't we just break it down? Uncle pulled out his sword and hit it as hard as he could, hitting it so hard that the table broke. But the box was still intact. What was it made of anyway, and where did my mother get it from? The kid didn't understand. Where is the key? My uncle said that the key is in the capital, so I am coming with you. He said he would go first and meet him there. And the box can stay here. The boy stayed and still looked at the box. What was the box made of? What kind of thing needed such protection? The boy did not understand. The boy had already packed up and came to his grandmother in a final hug, kissed her and told her to take care of herself. Said he'd come back to get her out of here when he'd sorted things out. The lad kissed his ground and rode the horses to the capital. He did not want to take the maid with him as he did not know what would happen in the capital and did not want to put her in danger. They had already traveled a long way and decided to make a halt, a roaring fire, and soup. The master asked his assassin if he knew why his father needed him in the capital. I think it's obvious, you do need to prepare for your future role. The boy coughed. And said that as far as I was concerned, you were being prepared for a wedding. Believe it or not, Section 4 is in charge of espionage and inspections, and Section 6 is in charge of murder. I'm a member of both, so there's no mistake. The DA's office is quick and decisive. If the people in Section 6 decide to do something, you're a dead man. No, even if it's someone from Section 6, my uncle will decide everything in seconds. The guy asked if he knew who his bride would be. He replied that the Dacha was the prime minister of the present dynasty. The lad was very surprised that the prime minister, with him an illegitimate child. Miss Lin's family is extremely virtuous and they have a good reputation in the capital. But her health is poor and she has recently fallen seriously ill, so they are in a hurry. Something is not right here, thought the boy. So that's why, it makes sense. So, I turn out to be some kind of lucky charm. You're about to be married to a girl who's about to die and your reaction is no anger. The guy said there was no use for her face. On the contrary, he felt sorry for her. She is forced to marry a man she has never met because of her poor health. The guy also added that, firstly, my leaving for the capital does not mean I will accept this marriage. Secondly, if I agree to the marriage, I have to like the other party. Thirdly, even if this girl is literally bedridden, I don't see what the big deal is. Fourthly, you probably don't know, but not only am I good with poisons, but I'm also a very good healer. Well, give it a try. See how you cope with a disease that even the emperor's doctors didn't want, said the lad, and left for the motorhome. Anyway, we'll wait and see. I wonder, is she pretty? Pretty? Maybe she's a lowly? 2 months later. The boy arrived in the capital. When he arrived, he was very surprised. The place was completely different from what he thought he would see here. Everything there was colorful and beautiful. This world is quite interesting. In the meantime, one of the assassins came to the king. He said that the mission to kill him had failed. He was on his way to the capital. The guy came to the capital, for him it was all unbelievable. The girl at the entrance said that the master was not in the mansion yet. Before he left, he had ordered a very good and warm welcome for Madam and the master. If you need anything you can come to me, said the girl. How unexpected. His father, whom he had never met before, was so interested in him. The boy walked around his palace and was very surprised. To have such a large residence in the capital, where there is a war for every millimeter of land, was something out of the ordinary. Father seems to be an extraordinary man indeed, but the people he met and could get his way were deliberately beating him to the punch because of his status as an illegitimate child. He didn't care because he thought his father should be ashamed of having an illegitimate child, and he was told that the second mistress thanked him to come and see her after you had laid out your things and settled in. Yes, the capital is not his home valley. His politeness to the servants doesn't seem appropriate here. The lad was summoned with him and told to wait. She must not have arrived yet, so the servants were not sure if he could be let in. In that case, all he had to do was wait. The guy dares to sit on the chair. Everyone was very surprised at how he dared to do this. The younger generation must stand meekly until the elders arrive. Where did he get so much pathos? Discussed with the maids. If Madam sees this, he will not be well. Behind them, the mistress, who was the mistress of the mansion, was jealous of all the inner workings of the mansion. She approached the boy and said that you must have been very tired on the road and so you sat down. He said hello to his aunt. And she sat down too. The aunt started asking him how his grandmother was doing. The boy started to say that a murderer had come to his house a few days ago, but luckily there was no danger. Otherwise everything is fine, thank you for your concern, he said. Madam thought about the fact that he was deliberately clinging to the word auntie and not calling him his second wife like the others. He is not making it clear that there is a big difference between the words. She told him to just go inside the house next time. She said it wouldn't do any good to have people gossiping about who the mansion is. He agreed. And thought about how she couldn't stand people. Of course, he is a reminder of the connection on your spouse's side. Madam said that his father works in the housekeeping department. She asked him if he had come here to become an examiner or if he was planning to join the service straight away. He replied that he would do as his father said and asked when he would be back. It won't be long now, she replied. Suddenly and very quickly a girl walked in on them. Brother, it was you, she said. This was the most talented girl in the capital. Good at piano, chess drawing, and calligraphy. She was his little sister. Pleased to meet you, brother, she said and wanted to bow. But he replied that there was no need for ceremony. Fan Jian's son also came to them and tapped his foot. Who was this boy? Asked the boy. He replied that he was the young master of the Fan family. From this very bastard child, he asked him and laughed. And the boy realized that apparently the mistress had decided to use his youth and ignorance to make a fuss and embarrass the boy. You look scrawny, definitely not marriageable, he said. It seemed that if he was not to bring trouble on the family in future with his tongue, he had to be brought up immediately. Just as he was about to say something, his sister shouted out her hand. His brother gave him his hands and she started beating him and saying, "What? First of all, you can't call your brother by his name. Secondly, you should remember our family status and not say such stupid things. Thirdly, punishment for such disrespect to your brother is a natural thing. Right, brother? Yes, he answered. He cried and ran to his mother. The brother asked why he was acting this way. She said it was because he was a stupid pig, unable to think for himself. So that's how it is. By the way, why did you hit his arm with a ruler? Father let me exercise his discipline, she said. Yes, it's different from what I imagined about things within the family. I'm not strong enough right now, said the sister. Don't forget that your power depends on the attitude of one particular person towards you, said brother. Brother, you too must not forget that this man is our father, and, even though we've been texting, it's been so long since we've chatted in person, I've missed moments like this, said my sister. Video that you're doing well, I'm not so worried anymore, said my brother. Thanks to your advice, the mood within the family has indeed become calmer. The boy did not think that the story of his past life would be repeated, and the boy said that even though he had lived in the valley all his life, he was aware of his mistress' status, so he was polite to her. And the brother asked if she had received his letter. Yes, I received it last night. It was composed by a man in black, and it made me very afraid. And my brother asked her if she knew the reason he came here. She replied that she knew the reason why the guy was very surprised. The sister also added that everyone already knew, and the boy thought that his father had brought him here secretly. My sister said that all the aristocratic children were curious as to what business brought an illegitimate child to the capital, all because the girl your father had chosen for you was very famous. The boy said he understood that marrying the Prime Minister's daughter was really quite serious business, but it wasn't just that. She had to correct him, to the Prime Minister's daughter out of wedlock. For 10 years in a row, the capital city has held its title as the most prosperous city. It's a tiny and independent world of prosperity, but unfortunately, it's also home to some of the most corrupt officials in history. Their head is Prime Minister Lin Yadufu. He came from a poor family, and he has come step by step to his current position in society. He works cunningly, fiercely, but he pretends to be an angel, which in reality he never keeps his promises and never listens to the people. And such a man has a daughter out of wedlock. Why supply him with himself was not understood by his brother. Rumor has it that news of his illegitimate daughter has spread from the palace. Woe from the palace! It might have been done by the emperor himself. This Iran was the talk of the aristocrats, so he was, in fact, simply forced to acknowledge her existence. But in the end, the emperor interceded for him, so the situation became even more confusing and unclear. And frankly, your reaction is rather strange and unexpected. Why didn't you react when you knew you were about to be married to a daughter who wasn't illegitimate? Reaction? I had her beat. I can't wait to ask the man what his intentions were in picking me up such a bride. Sister, let's take a walk around town sometime, remember the good old days. Now the lad's gone because his father's come. When they met they didn't know what to say to one another. Dad told him to go get him. And they went into the other room. Dad said that he was a lot like his mother. And he asked him how he'd been living in the valley all these years. The boy said that apart from the mercenary who wanted to kill him, nothing interesting. You know the reason why I summoned you to the capital, don't you? Of course I do. Are you resentful of me? No. When I was taken to the capital, I wasn't told that I had to marry the Prime Minister's daughter, so our family decided to gain a lot of influence through this marriage. Fine, you're angry, my father replied. I didn't get any news from the valley. I think you're a man who doesn't show emotion at all. My advice to you is to let your emotions run wild, or you'll languish. The son told him he was the kind of man you could push around. The father said he didn't mean to push him around. But this marriage, like it or not, was necessary, and it's not up for discussion, the father said. Why don't you understand that, child? Your daughter is gentle and attentive, clever and sensible and very beautiful indeed. Besides, you realize that even with our status, marriage is the best way to stabilize our situation. The boy was silent. Doesn't the Prime Minister's daughter equal you? Judging by his demeanor and tone, he is quite sincere. So why should I marry her? I did not understand the prices. Because her mother is the younger sister of the princess. The princess never married. Instead, she secretly ran the palace's affairs. It was she who ensured a steady flow of money to the palace and to the entire capital. Now you understand why you should marry her, don't you? It really is a big rumor. The Prime Minister is having an affair with a princess. No wonder he rose so swiftly and smoothly through the ranks with no connections or money. The princess has one sole heiress, and she herself has long been involved in affairs of state. Whoever marries her can eventually become head of the imperial family, the company that is now under the princess's control. It used to be owned by the family? That's right, father answered. That company originally belonged to your mother, so you'll just take what's rightfully yours. I admire your foresight, father. But can this marriage really bring the family business back to mother? Of course, unfortunately, it's not without its difficulties. Don't forget that I'm in charge of the housekeeping department, their finances. However, the Prime Minister has doubts about this marriage. So I hope you'll do well in the capital, said the father. The strength of the partnership and the mutual benefit why he has doubts didn't understand the boy. Their family is one of the most important in the capital and Lin Ruofu is a civil servant. He worries that this marriage will arouse His Majesty's suspicions, which will lead to big trouble. The son understands everything. It turns out nothing has been decided yet. You shaved your head too soon. It's all a unilateral decision in our family. Shave my head? Remember, no one must know about our conversation today. Otherwise, they won't live. My son answered what he knows, and he'll be very careful. For I am one who does not fear death. After today's conversation, it seemed to the boy that his father still had warm feelings for him. It seemed that the reason he had been sent here was that the man who had killed his mother was still in the capital. We'll have to find out more about that later, the boy said. But whether he really wanted to get married to the big girl the boy did not understand. Wouldn't that be tantamount to lying to her? No, I'm not like that, not just sorry for her. He also didn't have the key to the briefcase from my mum. He said he didn't care. His head was about to explode from all the information and stress. So he went to bed. At the same time, his father was standing on the balcony, thinking that his little boy is all grown up. He's smart beyond his years. Ping was against him coming here, so he brought him in while he was on holiday. One man guarantees that the family's property will be returned to his son. But no one will harm him here. The next day, all three children were driving around town. The sister was giving the boy a piece of candy which was very sour. The second brother was saying that it was definitely his sister, from the fierce look that usually melts the snowy peaks of the mountains. He also told the brother that he should know that he had only taken him along for his sister's sake. And I thought you were following us, said the brother. And he got very angry and said that he had to respect him. Next he heard something that smelled very good. They were at the inn. There they could go down and get something to eat. As the lad was coming out, his grandmother sneaked up on him and asked him if he needed the book, Forbidden K.A. It's the most popular novel in the capital. Luck smiled on you today. It was hard to find, she said. He looked and saw the title Dream in the Red Terem. Isn't that so, the book he was rewriting? He read a bit of the book, and he was very surprised to give the money to his grandmother. And he took the book with him. When he came to the boys, they asked him where he was. His brother said he saw out the window buying a book from some old lady. Said that he advised not to buy such things if you wanted to avoid being blamed. What kind of a book, did my sister ask? Do you remember the Dream in the Red Terem? The one I told you about? Of course I do, said sister. And he gave the book to his sister. She read it and was very surprised because it was the first time she had seen the book. He said it was all right, and he didn't see anything. He understood that she would not be able to resist sharing the book she liked with her friends. But he was not at home that this book would be distributed by different vendors. Her sister said that maybe the princess would do it. One day she came to chat with her and happened to see this book that you transcribed for me. She made copies for herself and took it with her. My sister said what she didn't think would happen, that it would become public domain and seem to be in the possession of hundreds of people. So first the book spread among us and then it hit the market. I really underestimate the power of piracy. Brother, look at the book and ask if he wrote the book, if it's his rock body. What did you read, and what are you unhappy about then? He was saying what's true, he read it. And he praised the author for his extraordinary political ear and sophistication. So you're starting to admire me already? Yeah, you can make a lot of money, wrote Yaroslav. That's so cool, my brother said. And raised my respect for him. No wonder your sister admires you so much. The guy's starting to realize he's got more respect for him, not because of his book, but because of the money he could potentially make. He says this manuscript is on the market in huge quantities. They're charging at least 8 pieces of silver for one copy. He says only he has the body to write such masterpieces, and if she's at home to make some money, let her know who to go to. Unfortunately, they have a conflict of interest. Even if he does not know anything about it, he will not be able to develop a potential enemy with the day. But they are blood brothers. Many potential tragedies can be avoided if the relationship between them is benign. It may indeed be possible to let his brother think about it. And he asked him why he had followed him. Was he not supposed to be doing it now? He replied that his mother had allowed it, saying that he needed to spend more time with his brother so that he could be a positive influence on him. And the boy realized that he and the sweetheart knew how to pretend. Apparently he would do anything for money. The guy said that we could collaborate, and so he got really excited. My sister read the book, said it was a very good book, on those damn speculators deliberately distorted some parts. A common marketing ploy. Don't take it so personally. After all, it makes sense that people buy the book. Look at the opening segment. The snippet was placed on the front page, changes the original message of the book. Such a delightful text is being sold as some kind of non-consensual. They have to do it to boost sales. Besides, if the brother does it, he'll be a lot braver than they are. He said that there were 10 chapters in one volume, so he would write 10 chapters and make a title page. His job was to make sure that with each chapter the interest of the readers would increase, so that they would want to buy the book to finish at home. He would break it up into several chapters and add jokes, songs. And he will be able to use the Yangchu as an introductory fragment. In the text itself, all delicate words would have to be highlighted in red ink. He was confident that this set of random words would encourage the customer to continue reading. It turns out my brother is interfered with by such obscenities, said my sister. Nothing wrong with that, just a way to get attention. My mother was right. Brother, you really are capable, said he. From now on, I won't move from you. And who are you, by child? His mistress' intentions were clear to him. It was obvious that she had sent him to keep an eye on the boy. The people who sat opposite them must have been of very high status. They were saying that they were not talented. Let them talk nonsense, there was no point in shouting back at them, he said. His brother told them to come over and he would beat them up. He walked up to these guys. And when he walked up, these men said what his bro's book is, a real masterpiece. You're not telling the truth, you're telling the opposite. The guy started to get indignant and say, how dare you say such things about my brother? He starts jumping on the man. And says he's the law. But when he tried to hit him, they grabbed him and they didn't understand what kind of trash dared to raise his hand against the Lord. The Lord said to let him go, and not to spoil his reputation. The lad threw him very far away, but his brother grabbed him. And said that his brother was young and you had hurt his feelings, but that was too much on your part. The gentleman began to say something that the girl looked very familiar to him. Isn't she the most talented girl in the capital? And this guy with him must be the young master. And whose son is it that possesses such impudence? And this is the child of that woman. Who are you? Asked the boy. He is the only son of a minister who serves in the palace. He says he is offended, yes, that a member of the Fang family has decided to use his power to oppress others. Oppress? Scholars like you are inferior in your talents, but you have ambition. You so-called talents, instead of studying diligently, disappear to places like this. What about ambition? What about humility? I don't think your family's influence will help you after making statements like that. I did not have that in mind. All of you at this table who are close to the court are not afraid of power. You respect yourselves and stand up for your opinions. It's admirable. You're so skinny. Aren't you afraid that one day you'll just be swept away by a current of wind from your fans? Or is that your way of expressing self-respect? Yes, the truth doesn't teach them that. You can only be born with it. The gentleman said to beat him up, but the guard who tried to hit him missed, and the lad hit him with all his might, so that he flew out the window. The gentleman said he was going to regret it. All the visitors looked on and wondered. They had often seen fights here, but this was the first time they had seen aristocrats involved. He took him down with a single blow. No wonder the family ranks so high in the capital. And that's when Li Hun approaches them. He's the prince's boss. Brother, this is the eldest son of the prince's mansion. Our families have been friends for many generations. Your Highness, this is the brother I was talking about, said the sister. I have just caught a glimpse that there was some trouble here, he asked. The Lord said that there was, and he asked for justice to be done for them. But the prince said that he was communicating with his friends. He would not like anyone to interfere with their conversation. So he ran away. The prince said what he was not maliciously asking, of the pure, learned, and there are those who pretend. I just have my own opinion about so-called, gifted students. That used to be what people with outstanding talent were called. But nowadays, to carry this title it is enough to have connections. There is too much outward affectation and too little intelligence in these scholars. And the country would not benefit from them. The prince replied that it makes sense. Your train of thought is quite interesting, you must come to me to discuss it, said the prince. The three of them left, and when they came out of the room the Lord was standing there. They did not understand what he wanted from them. Perhaps he wanted to fight again.